What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're on to the final preview video for round 3 of the Six Nations 2023. This, of course, where we check out the teams that have been announced for both sides, have a look through the team list, who's some good picks, some bad picks, thinking about some team tactics, and finally giving a score prediction. If you enjoy this style of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop down in the comment section your thoughts on both the teams. It's always nice to see what you guys have to say. We have already done the preview videos for the Italy versus Ireland game and Wales versus England. You can go check those ones out after this one. This one, though, France versus Scotland. Man, is this a game I'm excited for. As a neutral, this is one of the fixtures that I sort of really look forward to. We've had some absolute corkers in the last few years, especially that one. Was it 2 years ago? The last time we actually played this one over in the Stade de France, that we got to see Scotland have that fantastic comeback in that 2021 year, 27 points to 23, coming back right at the end. There was a whole thing. I think there was a punch thrown to Jamie Ritchie. There was all sorts of chaos going on in that game, but so glad to be seeing this fixture again. And it's sort of setting up to be another really good fixture this year. So hopefully we get to see it this time. So starting out then, we'll talk about the France team that's been announced. Now, both teams this week, not a lot of changes to talk about from their previous week. So we'll start off with the home team, France. They went on to play Ireland last week. Did lose against Ireland, but Ireland at the minute are just performing absolutely on top of their game. France played well, especially in that first half. We got to see that lovely breakaway try. Damien Penaud absolutely sprinting down. You can't write France off at any point. They can just make that breakaway. But Ireland just controlling the game enough last week. But some of the broken play is nice to see from France, and I think that's something we'll be seeing again this week. So starting out in this front row then, Cyril Bay, Julien Marchand, and Mohamed Houas. Now, he's come in because Antonio was handed his 3-week ban after that high tackle that went on against Ireland. In the review video, of course, I filmed that review video directly after the game. I thought it looked like just a really hard collision. But of course, I don't have the pleasure of going back and looking over it repeatedly. So they've gone back now, they've looked at it, they've deemed it to be a much more dangerous collision than they thought on the pitch at the time. So he's been handed his 3-week ban. So we won't be seeing Antonio, but Houas coming in now. And like I said, I think it was Mohamed Houas and Jamie Ritchie, where there was an incident with a punch a couple of years ago. So I'm sure Jamie Ritchie will be reminding him about that one on the field this week. In the lock department then, Thibaut Flament and Paul Willemse. Flament, who has been just, maybe arguably one of the best locks throughout the tournament. I think in terms of the fantasy scoring, he's absolutely crushing it. Tackle rate has been phenomenal in both games. He's making huge meters with the ball in hand. And he's just been incredibly impressive in the line-out too. Really nice to see him in there. People like Cameron Vokey not being in this side thought was going to be a massive, detriment to France, but Flament absolutely making the most of his opportunity in this Six Nations tournament. In the back row, Anthony Gelance comes in alongside of Charles Olivant and Gregory Aldrit. It's certainly the standard back row we're going to see now. Gelance is performing quite highly. He was completely involved in that Damien Penaud try we got to see last week. Charles Olivant and Gregory Aldrit, both of which maybe not quite as vocal as we've seen them in past years involved with the Six Nations. I feel like with Gregory Aldrit, we've also seen him sort of come off. I'm normally expecting him to play the full 80. Obviously, their bench is quite loaded with the forwards now, and they're trying to fit those players in. I'm sort of hoping we should get to see a little bit more from Charles Olivant and Gregory Aldrit this week. Not that they've done anything wrong or particularly bad, but I think in previous years, especially with how many tries we saw Charles Olivant scoring a couple of years back in the Six Nations fixtures, then I hope we get to see a little bit more from them going into this game. Hopefully playing at home will be a big boost for them. In the halfback partnership, Antoine Dupont as captain and Romain Ntamack, both of which playing very well last week. Dupont, of course, with that ridiculous tackle on Mac Hansen, somehow stopping a try that just had to come. Dupont, defensive work, absolutely brilliant. I think most people are still in agreement he's the best scrum half in the world. He's certainly looking that way in terms of people's fantasy. Feel a bit bad for the benched guys. Really hard for a benched sub to come on at any point when you've got Dupont on the field, because they just want to play him for as much of that game as possible, because he's such a big impact to this France team. In the centre partnership, Mofana back alongside Gaël Ficou. Ficou, again, I think I mentioned him in my team of the week as well for an honourable mention. I thought he had another superb game. He's just awesome. Every game you see Gaël Ficou in, defensively, he's absolutely crushing it. Just runs out of the line, gets the man that needs to be tackled, stop the attack spreading out wider. And then finally in that back three, Dumortier, Damien Penaud, and Thomas Ramos, who last week, kicking game, wildly improved. Up to, I think he had 100% kicking last week, didn't he? But, that's one thing that's going to be crucial. I think in this game, both teams will know this is a game. Both teams will be pretty desperate to win. For France, this is keep the Six Nations dream alive. For Scotland, it's Grand Slam dreams alive. Like, it's really nice to be seeing Scotland on such a front foot. Kicking will be a big thing. Ramos, I'm sure, will be practicing all week to get those kicks down because those 3-pointers coming. In terms of some other people then going along, Dumortier. I feel like Dumortier's been a bit quieter. There was a lot of hype around him coming in. Obviously, from playing sevens, he was going to come in, make a really big impact to the team. He's getting his hands on the ball. I just feel like the rest of the team maybe not giving him enough room to work with. He feels like he gets closed down a little bit. He certainly works very hard to beat defenders. He's getting tackled, but he's slipping through a couple of tackles. But I really want to see that guy have a bit of open room and a bit of open space to run. France are definitely looking to play much more aggressively. There's a lot of offloading. They're recycling the ball very quickly and get it out. They want to play sporadic. They want to play broken. And they've got the players. If that begins to break up, like we saw with the Damien Pinot try, they'll absolutely run away from it. So Scotland have got their work cut out defensively to keep these stats down. But hopefully, Dumortier this week we get to see open up a little bit. In terms of the replacements, there no switching around here from last week at all. Barlow, Wardy, and Falatea coming on in that second half. Taufai, Fanua, Cross, and Makalu will of course be coming on in that second half. So the 6-2 split. There was talks about how they were going to play this one. France, of course, are slightly more advantage than other teams with this 6-2. Because Makalu plays the wing, it's your 6-2, but it's also your 5-3 at the same time. But I feel like for this one, I think there could be a lot of tackling going on in this game. Both teams will be looking to try and open this game up, so the forwards are going to be worked. I imagine this is being looked at more of being a 6-2, and Makalu be on the wing if something happens to one of the wingers in terms of an injury. But I think we'll be seeing Makalu come on as a forward in that second half rather than out on the wing. And then finally in that replacement backs, Couillou and Mathieu Jalibert. Couillou, unfortunately, like I sort of said already, just get him on the pitch. It just has no game time because you've got someone like Dupont ahead of you. A really good scrum half, but we're just not really going to have a lot of game time, unfortunately, while Dupont plays at such a high level. Jalibert coming on last week. I'm trying to think. I mean, my only memory of Jalibert really from last week off the top of my head was that Gary Ringrose try and sort of seeing him on the floor looking up at Gary Ringrose as he runs past. So he may well have done some other stuff in that Ireland game and I just can't think off the top of my head. But overall, a big France team to play at home. Only one change from a team that was performing well against the number one in the world. So, you know, they haven't got anything to lose this team. I think this is a good team and Scotland certainly got a little bit of work cut out for them. Talking of Scotland then, let's move on to the team that has been announced. Sort of similar to France, not a lot of changes. Now, Scotland went off to play Wales last week and did pretty well. Let's put it like that. Came away with a bonus point win. Only conceded one score the entire game. As a Wales supporter, that was a tough one to watch. I did do a chat with Connor Does Rugby. It's out on the channel. You can go watch that one back. We talked a little bit more about us from a Scottish and Wales view on that game. But Scotland will be happy with their performances so far. Beating England in Twickenham, beating Wales in Murrayfield. They're on a good front foot now. A couple of people are sort of talking about whether this will be Scotland's first real test, which I'm not sure if that's necessarily a little bit disrespectful to some of the other teams, but I feel like an England team that's rebuilding, it was their first game back at home. It's still a great win for Scotland. And then a Wales team that's sort of underperforming at the minute. I can sort of see why people are saying it because I think this one will be a really big test to see where this Scotland team is at. But of course, you think back to 2 years ago, there's probably not an awful lot of changes in the team sheets between that year and this year, and Scotland came away with a win in this one in the Stade de France. So looking forward to see what this Scotland team can bring. Starting out in the front row then, Pierre Schoeman, George Turner and Xander Fagerson. Xander Fagerson still giving away a few penalties. It's my only complaint about him. I think he's a really good player, but just too many penalties for silly little things not rolling away. Clearly he's one of those players that wants to just slow down the game and let the Scotland defence reload a little bit, but just occasionally gets caught out a little bit and he gets blown up and just sort of gives those easy meters. Just want to hold back from that and I think he'll do okay. In the lock department, Richie Gray remains in alongside Grant Gilchrist as the vice captain this week. The line-out for Scotland is looking pretty good at the minute. They only had one go wrong last week and I think that was due to George Turner going off and Fraser Brown coming on. George Turner's line-out throwing's actually been really good for them. And the line-out work from the locks has been really good so far. In the back row then, one change. Jamie Ritchie retains as the captain, but Hamish Watson comes in for Luke Crosby and Matt Fagerson in that number 8. Now, Matt Fagerson got my team of the week over Keelan Doris, which so many people couldn't believe. I thought Matt Ferguson had a superb week last week. He had 2 try-saving tackles. He only missed 1 tackle all game, I think. I just thought he was absolutely amazing. Got his try as well. Hamish Watson coming back in. A couple of you sort of let me know that he's sort of just coming back off his injury. But Luke Crosby, it doesn't feel like we've got to see necessarily enough of Luke Crosby over this tour. I don't know what anyone else thinks about this one. He's played both games so far. I just don't feel like we've got to see a lot of him. He also got a little bit subbed off in that Wales game. He had to come off with the yellow card that happened for George Turner, so they could put a different hooker on. I don't really feel like I've got to see enough from him, mainly because I don't know a lot about him as a player, and I'm really going off of his Scotland performances so far. I would have liked to have seen a bit more, but Hamish Watson is certainly an extremely talented player to move back into that open side flanker position. In the halfback partnership, Ben White staying alongside of Finn Russell. I think this is expected. Finn Russell last week, man, just absolutely crushing in terms of it. 3 try assists, getting that little out the back passes, the offloading game from Scotland. Scotland and France are going to be 2 of these really interesting teams to look at how fast they want to offload the ball and get those little passes outside. I'm really hoping this game expands out and breaks up a bit and we get to see some running rugby, maybe quite a high scoring game. I'm really looking forward to this one. In the centre partnership, Tui Pelotu alongside of Hugh Jones, the Huey Pelotu combo that's worked for both weeks. Some of those passes, I'm sure Sean Edwards will be looking at how Hugh Jones keeps getting through those defensive lines, and we'll see that French defence tighten up around Hugh Jones. Maybe Scotland are expecting that. Maybe they'll then play around Hugh Jones, expecting them to target that man. So many different tactics we can see in this game. Now, one thing going on with the Scotland team, no Chris Harris, because they're going to go for the 6-2 split on the bench, and Hugh Jones getting that start at 13. So Hugh Jones is performing well and is in form. They're sticking with him, and it's nice to see. In the back 3 then, Duan van der Merwe, always going to be having that left wing, having a good tournament so far for him. 150 metres made last week. Considering he had a very quiet first half, the second half for him was just exploding. Kyle Stain on that right wing, 2 tries for him last week. And then finally Stuart Hogg, who we didn't get to see almost any of. And I had him in my fantasy, so that was a terrible pick. Nice to see that he's back. I did have a chat when I was talking with Connor about what happened to him, because I still don't quite know what happened. He sort of went into a ruck, got an injury in the ruck. We sort of saw a bit of blood on his face, went off for his HIA and never came back. So back in the team this week. But in all honesty, Blair Kinghorn performing very well in that fullback position, and I've seen a couple of people saying maybe Blair Kinghorn should start, but Stuart Hogg is Stuart Hogg. Hard to swap a man like that out if he's up and fully fit and running hard. So overall, a good Scotland team. Only that one change in that flanker position. So in terms of the replacements, Fraser Brown, Jamie Batty, and WP Nell will be going on in that second half. Like I said, Fraser Brown was the only line-out mistake that I'm aware of last week when he had to come on for the yellow carded George Turner. But George Turner, for me, I think I'd still be holding him in that starting position. Rest of the replacement forwards, Johnny Gray, Sam Skinner, and Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey came on against that Wales team and immediately gave a penalty away. A little bit too much aggression straight off the bat. Maybe you want to just sort of sink into the game. Now, something that someone else might know a little bit more about. We've got some fantastic Scotland subscribers, so feel free to drop it down in the comments. Is any of the locks in this Scotland team actually able to move to a different position? Because to me, when I think of Johnny Gray, Sam Skinner, Grant Gilchrist, and Richie Gray, I sort of exclusively think of them as locks, which, unless they're just going to replace both locks, maybe they're deeming the line-out situation to be something they really want to pin back on Scotland. I might have wanted to pick someone who was more able to change between lock and flanker, or another just dedicated sort of flanker to come on it in that second half and maybe stick with one dedicated lock. I'm not really sure between people like Grant Gilchrist and Sam Skinner if they are able to move back. Feel free to drop that down in the comments. It's one of the very positive things on this channel. Everyone sort of helps each other learn. Even me, there's even stuff I can learn. If you've seen the fantasy, you know there's plenty I can learn. In terms of the replacement backs then, Ali Price and Blair Kinghorn. So Ali Price coming back in. A lot of people were a little bit surprised about this one, I think, because I think George Hall's been performing well. Ben White's still my starting one for me. Ali Price getting some game time. It'll be interesting to see. I haven't been able to watch a lot of club level recently. A lot of people have been telling me he's been out of form, and that's why he wasn't picked for this Scotland team. So seeing him come on for the bench, we'll see what sort of impact he can make. If he's fighting for his shirt back, you're hopefully making a big impact from that bench. But Blair Kinghorn last week, absolutely phenomenal. And like I sort of said, with me having Stuart Hogg in the fantasy, I kind of wish I picked Blair Kinghorn in the fantasy, because had a good game, got over his try, supporting the players well. Of course, I've sort of referred to him before as being the super sub. He's winger fullback, fly half, wherever he wanted to go. I'm not really sure how he trains in terms of getting ready for games like this. I'm not sure if they sort of prepare him for what position he's planning to come on for, or if you're just training to be completely ready for anything. But he came on at fullback last week, and I just thought he had a superb game. So nice to see him still in there. Going for the 6-2 split, both teams, realistically, I think McAloo will be used as a forward. So I feel like this game might come down a little bit more to both teams expecting this game to open up, and it's requesting a lot of the forwards involved with the tackling. You want to keep your forward stamina up. You don't want to be missing too many tackles, because both of these teams have the ability to offload, pick sniping little passes, chip kicks over the top, or crossfield kicks. There's a lot of things to keep in mind with this game. I'm really hoping this one opens up to some free-flowing rugby, and we get to see both teams just absolutely going at it. So what do we think in terms of a score prediction? This one's really hard, because I think France must be going in as the favourites for this one, with the home advantage. But Scotland performing well at the minute, and the way they've shifted their defence recently to be, I don't know, quite spongy. They're very good at just absorbing attack, whereas France have lent more towards being the team that goes for the relentless attack. They're always looking for the offload. They're always looking for that extra pass. Keep the attack going, and Scotland have got very good at absorbing the attack. They feel like they're going to counter each other quite a lot. So quite a tough call. I'm looking forward to see what your guys' predictions are down in the comment section. I think for me, I'm still going to lean towards France. I don't think by a lot, though. I'll say France by 3. That's what I'm going to go for. I've genuinely no idea. I feel like this could also go to Scotland, but I really don't know. This could go genuinely either way. This is going to be one of the games of the tournament. I'm really hoping it sort of lives up to the hype I'm giving it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. What's your score prediction? Because I do enjoy having a read through them. Of course, we'll be doing the video on Monday, checking out the world ranking, see what shifted up, and checking out what happened in the Fantasy League. So make sure you are locking in your teams and your predictions before the game kicks off tomorrow. I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.